back to my channel. Thank you so much for watching my videos. It's exam time and you're stressed. I get what you're going through, trust me. And in addition to your usual stress, you have your added stress of your new environment. I know what you're feeling. Here are some study methods for exam time that I have used in the past and have been successful for me. Also, a quick side note, after saying each study method, I will also say which subjects that these correlate to, because each subject's study method will change based on the type of content it delivers. Number 1, make flashcards. I cannot stress how important the study method is. Flashcards are so useful for exams in helping you memorize the facts straight. I would say that this method is the most useful for subjects where the information is mainly theory-based. Examples would be biology, psychology, sociology, and you can also use these for subjects like chemistry and physics for the theory portions of the course. There are 2 methods I used for flashcards. One was the handwritten and hand-drawn flashcards. This was the one I used all throughout grade 12 before I met Anki. It was so helpful for all of my exams. To make these flashcards, I went through my notes, and for each heading or division as you see fit, I made a flashcard that corresponds to it. The picture goes with the information seen in the answers, more like written on the back. When you draw a picture based on the answers and you correlate this picture with the verbal information, it really strengthens your memory of that information as you make these flashcards. But you also have to review them. Now, I have to say that this is time-consuming to an extent. Yes, you have an easier time reviewing those cards and retaining the information you wrote down, which is why I'm a firm believer in the usefulness of these flashcards. But some people spend too long on their pictures and spend too long on how their flashcards actually look. I found that the simplest diagrams, just made with a few colors of highlighters, were just as sufficient or even more productive than complex diagrams. The second method I used for flashcards were Anki, and I cannot stress how useful Anki was for me. Now, with Anki flashcards, I did not make my own diagrams. I made the most basic flashcards ever, and yes, those aren't as useful as other features of Anki like close deletion, and I can make a video on those later on, but my basic flashcards had a heading on the front and my answers on the back. But Anki uses the curve of forgetting and makes sure that you actually retain all of the information instead of forgetting it later on. Note that these flashcards have to be made early on because Anki uses spaced intervals and it is much more useful when you use it early on. That's not to say that I haven't used it last minute and I'm not very proud of that. I have used Anki for exams that were just 3 days away, and I memorized all the information word for word using this program, and I can safely say that I got amazing marks in return. My second method is doing practice problems. Now, this is the most useful for subjects with formula-heavy or calculation-heavy content like physics, math, or chemistry. Doing practice problems is the most clearest route to achieving a good mark in these subjects. It can also be useful for courses like biology and psychology. I found that I did the exam reviews that professors gave me. I also did most of the problem-solving questions given throughout the course, and I'll get back to this point later on. I also found exams online, and I did it in accordance to the time I get on the actual test. Now, I said I did most of the practice problems because some were very repetitive. For these types of questions, I would see whether I got the previous question right, and I'll do the repeat or the similar type of question if I got it wrong. If I got it right and I felt as if I still needed more practice, I would either do the similar question completely, or I would verbally talk myself through the question. Now, some people like having the answers to their word problems open while they're solving, and they seem to think that if they look at the answer for a second and then they do the question, that they will understand the question on the test itself. I personally don't think so. It is best to try and solve the problem yourself. Think about it. On a test, you won't have those answers with you, so using them to study, it's counterproductive. If you use it for one question, make sure you find a similar question and solve it yourself. My third tip is to verbally talk yourself through the information. Now, I have said this in another video, but this is by far a great method to study by. I can use this method to study for a psychology exam, and I achieved great marks. This is an amazing method to go by. I would have a stuffed animal on my desk, and I would maximize the amount of time I spend making eye contact with it. This proves to me that if I can talk through the content with eye contact, then I have a clear understanding of what the content means. I find that this method is great for classes where you have mainly multiple choice style problems because you aren't required to know the exact definition, but you are required to recognize the answer. If you're in a class where the exact definition of words are needed and you're required to write them down from your memory, a short answer test, rather than recalling and recognizing the information, the best method is flashcards, so you can memorize this information verbatim. My fourth tip is very popular, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it. That is to make study review sheets. These review sheets are good for theory-heavy courses or even language courses. Now, personally, I have done this method in the past, but it didn't work for me as efficiently as the previous three. Now, the way to make review sheets is to go through your information, similar to how you go through your information to make a flashcard, and to write down the short subheadings for each unit or topic, and write the most important, skimmed down information below. I have to say that this method is very aesthetic, it's very nice to look at, but for me it is impractical in comparison to flashcards or the others. And that's because you can see all of your answers right in front of you. But the pro of this method is that you're memorizing the information slightly as you write them down. On review sheets, people generally only have words, as they're trying to condense all the information into a page or 2 pages or whatever it is. But combining both your visual information with verbal information is great, and that's what flashcards do for you. If you are making review sheets though, I would recommend trying to verbally talk through your review sheets at the end, as it is more useful to hear the information out loud than to read them. My fifth study method is to draw out your information and to make acronyms or mnemonics. This is great for subjects where diagrams and theory is given a lot of importance to. For example, in biology, if you are required to memorize the metabolic pathways, or even just remember what each pathway does, drawing them out and talking yourself through as you draw this diagram is an amazing way to memorize that information and to understand the process. You are teaching yourself, and once again, you're associating a diagram with verbal information. Making acronyms, even if they are ridiculous, is a great way for memorizing functions of things. For the functions of proteins, you have the acronym TRACY. Making mnemonics are also great. For example, to memorize the carpal bones in your wrist, you can use "some like trying pizza that they can't handle." Now, acronyms and mnemonics are one-time use only. You can't apply these things to other contexts, and it may take a while to make them up. See if there are already some acronyms or mnemonics online before you actually make your own, as it may be a waste of time. Another side note I have is that these acronyms and mnemonics can be nonsensical if you can't find any online and if you are pressed for time. You can make them as ridiculous as you want, and it can probably make no sense to others. But note that it will be easier for you to memorize if they come to your memory easily. That's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching my videos. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave a comment down for me explaining how you did on your exams and what study methods worked for you best. Thank you so much. Bye!